In a world where wealth often speaks loudest, two quiet girls chose silence. Born into one of the most powerful families in the country, Celeste and Celina Thompson had it all: wealth, beauty, brains, and three older brothers who ruled the school their parents built. But when the twins entered high school, they faced something their money couldn't protect them from: cruel bullying, led by a girl who had no idea who her victims really were. This is not just a story of bullying, it's a story of strength, secrets, and a truth that changes everything. Stay with us, because when the masks come off and the truth comes out, nothing will ever be the same again. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. In the heart of a lush countryside estate, surrounded by tall iron gates and a winding stone driveway, lived the Thompsons, an elderly couple whose names commanded respect from every corner of the city. Mr. Edward Thompson was once the most sought-after businessman in the region. With his sharp gray hair and a pair of watchful blue eyes, he had built an empire from scratch: real estate, technology, pharmaceuticals, and finally, the crown jewel of his legacy, Thompson International School, a private educational haven known for shaping the finest minds. Beside him was Mrs. Clara Thompson, a graceful woman with silver curls and eyes that twinkled even in silence. Clara had managed their foundations and community outreach programs, and most importantly, she held the family together with warmth, wisdom, and unwavering faith. Their wealth was legendary, yes, but so was their humility. And when they had their three sons, Ethan, Elijah, and Emmanuel, the city rejoiced. All three grew up handsome, charismatic, and deeply intelligent. From a young age, they were trained not just to inherit wealth but to lead with purpose. By their mid-20s, the three Thompson brothers had already taken over operations of their parents' school. Ethan, the eldest, was calm and strategic. As head administrator, he ran the school's policies and operations like clockwork. Elijah, the middle son, was passionate and charming. He was the face of the school, handling student welfare, events, and mentorship programs. Emmanuel, the youngest of the boys, was creative and bold. He managed the school's tech, curriculum innovations, and extracurricular projects. The school flourished under their leadership. Students admired them. Parents trusted them. Teachers were proud to work under them. Yet, despite all their success, there was one thing the Thompsons still longed for: a daughter. Years passed. Clara had nearly given up hope, until one snowy December night at the age of 48, she gave birth to not one, but two beautiful baby girls. Celeste and Celina were like miracles wrapped in sunlight. Born healthy and strong, with rosy cheeks and full heads of hair, they stole everyone's hearts, especially their elder brothers. The whole house, the whole town even, celebrated their birth. The media called them the Golden Girls of the Thompsons. Celeste, the first to arrive, had soft curls and eyes like twilight. She was thoughtful, calm, and always reading. Celina, born just 5 minutes after, had a spark in her smile and mischief in her laughter. She was adventurous, outspoken, and fiercely loyal. Their parents, now older and less involved in the businesses, poured their love into the twins. But one instruction stood above all others: protect your sisters. And the boys took that seriously. The twins grew up within the walls of the very school their parents had built. They walked the halls as ordinary students, not with titles or flashy privilege. Their parents insisted they earn respect, not demand it. And so, even though everyone knew who they were, Celeste and Celina stayed humble. They kept a low profile, wore their uniforms like every other girl, and focused on learning. The only exception? They always had a few loyal friends by their side. Their circle was small but tight. Naomi, their friend from childhood, was kind-hearted and bold. Felix, the witty son of the school's librarian, adored Celina's energy. Lexi, a calm and quiet girl who had been bullied in primary school, became their shadow and protector in return. The twins laughed often, studied hard, and made memories. But nothing stays perfect forever. A whisper of trouble. It began with little things. Books disappearing. Nasty notes in their lockers. Unkind whispers in the corridor. The twins ignored it, thinking it would pass. But high school can be a breeding ground for envy, and their beauty, brains, and grace were enough to stir jealousy. At the center of the storm was Valerie Dunn, the self-proclaimed queen of SHS and leader of a group known as the Crown Circle. Valerie was bold, beautiful, and feared. She had money, looks, and a sharp tongue. But most of all, she had ambition. And Valerie had her eyes on Elijah Thompson. She didn't know he was one of the twins' brothers. In fact, she assumed the girls were rich scholarship kids, not blood heirs to the empire. To her, they were just quiet nobodies who thought too highly of themselves. And she hated how Celeste's elegance drew admiration silently, how Celina's laughter warmed others without effort. The jealousy brewed until it turned toxic. Despite the bullying, the twins said nothing to their brothers. Celeste didn't want to cause drama. Celina didn't want to seem weak. And truthfully, they both believed they could handle it. After all, they had each other. They had their friends. And most days, the school still felt like home. Only Naomi, Felix, and Lexi knew the truth. They tried their best to protect the girls, shielding them from the worst of Valerie's schemes. Still, the bullying became craftier. Valerie's gang would trip Celina in the hallway, spread lies about Celeste cheating in exams, and even steal from their lockers. It became harder to ignore. But then something strange happened. Valerie began skipping classes just to attend Elijah's weekly assemblies. She wore extra perfume. She practiced her smile. And every time Elijah walked past her, she nearly melted. She told her friends, "He's so refined. He's the man I deserve." But Elijah barely noticed her. To him, Valerie was just another overconfident student. He had no idea she was causing problems for his sisters, until one day he spotted a tear-stained notebook in the hallway. It belonged to Celeste. And on the last page was a crude drawing of her with devil horns, captioned, "Go back to the gutter, scholarship rat." Something shifted in Elijah's heart, but he didn't speak on it yet. Back at home, the twins smiled as always. At dinner, they talked about books and hobbies. At school, they focused on grades and helped their friends. But inside, both girls were tired. Celeste had begun writing letters she never sent. Celina had begun spending more time in the library, avoiding the hallways. Their brothers, busy with school management, didn't notice how quiet they had become, until one day, Emmanuel overheard something troubling near the cafeteria. A girl was bragging, "We made the twins of nobody cry again. Did you see Celina run away?" Another laughed. "Let's make them leave. This school is ours." Emmanuel's blood ran cold. He didn't say anything, but the pieces were slowly falling into place. That evening, Elijah slipped a note into Celeste's room. "No one should make you feel small. If someone is hurting you, please tell me. You don't have to fight alone." Celeste stared at the note, heart pounding. She didn't cry. She didn't tell him. But she knew someone had noticed. And that was the first crack in Valerie's illusion. Because the Thompsons were not just a rich family. They were a family that stood together. And Valerie's game was about to end. Thompson International School glimmered in the morning sun, its marble pillars and ivy-lined walls glowing with prestige. From the outside, the school was a castle. Inside, however, shadows had begun to stretch long and heavy. Valerie Dunn stood in front of the mirror in the girls' washroom, touching up her lipstick. Behind her, members of her group, Shannon, Lila, and Ruth, stood like guards in formation. "I think today's the day Elijah will finally notice me," Valerie said with a confident smirk. "He looked right at you yesterday," Shannon added. Lila giggled. "You practically smiled him into a trance." Valerie turned sharply. "Of course I did. I'm everything he should want. Beauty, presence, style. Just wait." But the truth was Elijah Thompson barely gave her a passing glance. His mind was on other things, like the disturbing rumors he'd begun to hear. Whispers of bullying. Mentions of locker vandalism. Of tears. Of twins who never said a word. And Emmanuel had confirmed it. Something was happening. Celeste sat at the edge of the school library, tracing her finger along the spine of a book she wasn't reading. Her eyes kept drifting toward the door, checking for Valerie. She didn't want to deal with another confrontation. Celina sat nearby, tapping her pen nervously. She was usually the fire in the room, the spark. But lately she'd grown quieter. Still smiling, but not like before. Naomi joined them with 2 chocolate croissants from the cafeteria. "Eat something," she said, "and try to breathe. I think Valerie's group is still in science lab." Felix popped his head in next. "I may or may not have blocked their path with a janitor cart. That should buy us 10 minutes. Lexi rolled her eyes but smiled. "It's not much, but it's something." Despite the pain, the twins found strength in their friends. Their small circle had become a wall between them and the hate, even if that wall was slowly cracking. But neither Celeste nor Celina said a word to their brothers. Not yet. Elijah stood on the top floor of the school administration building, his eyes locked on the student courtyard. From up here, he could see the flow of teenagers like ants, moving between classes, laughing, shouting. He watched Celina dart across the path, her bag held tightly, her eyes lowered. He watched Valerie and her crew trailing behind her. His stomach twisted. "What's up?" Emmanuel asked, stepping into the office. "You've been on edge all week." Elijah didn't look away. "I think Valerie's hurting our sisters." Emmanuel froze. Celeste dropped a notebook filled with sketches. Notes. Things someone wrote about her. They weren't jokes, man. They were cruel. "And we didn't notice," Emmanuel whispered. Ethan walked in just then, carrying a report folder. "Didn't notice what?" Both brothers turned to him, serious. It was time to stop pretending. Their sisters were suffering. And the walls of silence were breaking. In the cafeteria, Valerie flipped her hair over her shoulder as she leaned close to Elijah's chair. He was there to review a student mentorship list, but Valerie thought it was fate. "Elijah," she purred, "do you mind checking this list for the Cultural Week event? I need someone with a leader's eye." Elijah barely looked at her. "Leave it on my desk." Valerie blinked. "But I could walk you through it." "No need." His voice was sharper this time. Shannon leaned close to Valerie. "Maybe now isn't the time." But Valerie was too prideful to back down. "I'm just trying to help. You always look so stressed." Elijah stood up slowly. "Valerie." She straightened, confident. "Do you know Celeste and Celina Thompson?" he asked suddenly. She smirked. "Oh, the twins? Of course. Quiet little things. Always acting like they're better than everyone. They're my sisters." Silence. Valerie's face went pale. Shannon gasped. Ruth dropped her juice. Elijah's eyes narrowed. "You didn't know, did you?" Valerie tried to cover her shock. I didn't mean anything. We just joked around." Elijah stepped closer. "Bullying. But humiliation. I've heard it all. You've harassed them in the school my family built. In front of my eyes." Valerie's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Stay away from them," he said coldly, "or you'll be gone." And with that, he turned and walked away. Word spread fast. By lunch break, the entire school was buzzing. Valerie bullied the Thompson twins? She didn't know they were his sisters? Elijah called her out, right in front of the staff. Valerie hid in the girls' washroom, her face flushed with humiliation. Meanwhile, Celeste and Celina sat quietly at the back of the art lab, unaware of the storm brewing outside. Naomi burst in with wide eyes. "Valerie's been exposed," she gasped. "Elijah found out you're his sisters, and that she's been tormenting you." He confronted her. "Everyone's talking." Celeste's jaw dropped. Celina blinked. "Wait, what?" Felix rushed in next. "You're basically heroes now. Everyone's on your side. Students are apologizing for not noticing. Valerie hasn't come out of the bathroom since second period." Lexi grinned. "You two are legends." The twins stared at each other, part shock, part relief, part fear. They never meant for it to explode like this. But maybe it was time. That night, the Thompson mansion felt warmer than usual. At dinner, Ethan set down his fork and said, "We know." Celeste and Celina looked up. "We know everything," Elijah added. "And we're sorry we didn't act sooner." Emmanuel smiled gently. "You're not just our sisters. You're part of what we've built. And no one gets to treat you that way." For the first time in weeks, Celeste felt the weight lift off her chest. Celina's eyes filled with tears. We just didn't want to bother you. You're never a bother, Clara said, stepping in from the kitchen. You're our joy. Edward stood and raised a glass. To our girls, for enduring with grace. And to our sons, for standing up when it mattered. The next week, Valerie requested a private meeting with Elijah. In the office, she stood small and quiet. I didn't know, she said. If I had, I swear. Elijah interrupted. That's the problem, Valerie. You shouldn't need to know someone's last name to treat them with kindness. She nodded, ashamed. I've asked to step down from student council. I'll be apologizing to them publicly. Elijah was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Thank you for taking responsibility. That's a start. Valerie left with her head low, but for the first time, perhaps, she truly understood humility. At the school's annual Cultural Week celebration, Celeste and Celina were invited to present the opening speech. They almost declined, but their friends encouraged them. Celeste stepped up, microphone in hand. Kindness is quiet, she said. And sometimes the strongest voices are the ones that never shout. Celina added, but silence isn't always strength. We all need to speak up when something is wrong. Because this school isn't just built with bricks, it's built with people. And people deserve to be respected. The crowd erupted in applause. Even Valerie clapped softly from the side. Weeks passed. The twins walked the halls now without fear. Valerie and her group no longer ruled with intimidation. Other students, inspired by the twins' grace, began to speak up more too. Naomi, Felix, and Lexi became local heroes, the Circle of Shield, as some called them. And Elijah? He watched his sisters flourish with pride. One afternoon, as the sun set over the school roof, he turned to Emmanuel and Ethan and said, We've built something more than just a school. Emmanuel nodded. We've built a legacy. Ethan smiled. And it's only the beginning. Blossoms of a new day. The morning of the school's 20th anniversary gala arrived with golden sunshine stretching across the Thompson estate. The grand auditorium was decorated in white and gold, with lush rose garlands cascading from the balconies. Students, parents, and notable dignitaries from across the country were expected to attend. For the Thompsons, this wasn't just a celebration of 2 decades of academic excellence. It was the first time the entire family, Ethan, Elijah, Emmanuel, Celeste, and Celina, would take the stage together. Clara Thompson watched the preparations from the garden with her husband, Edward, sitting beside her in a wheelchair. They've grown up so well, Clara said, smiling as Celina chased a butterfly while Celeste read under a tree. They've made us proud, Edward added, his voice rough from age but full of pride. Across the lawn, Elijah was reviewing cue cards for the opening speech. Emmanuel and Ethan were coordinating logistics and sound checks. Everything was in motion, but the real spotlight would fall on the twins. A school transformed since the exposure of Valerie's bullying and her voluntary resignation from the student council. The school had begun to change in ways both big and small. Students began reporting bullying more frequently. New peer support groups were formed. Even teachers became more alert, more involved. Celeste and Celina were now widely respected, not for their wealth, but for their humility, courage, and quiet strength. Teachers spoke of Celeste as the heart of the school's literature club, and of Celina as a rising leader in science and sports. But to the sisters, their greatest achievement was how their once small circle of friends had grown into a powerful community of kindness. Valerie's apology 3 days before the gala, a surprising request reached the Thompson household. Valerie wanted to speak to Celeste and Celina privately. The meeting was held after school in one of the music rooms. Valerie entered slowly, wearing a simple cardigan, no makeup, and no entourage. Her pride was gone, but in its place was something real. I owe you both everything, she began, nervously twisting her hands. I was blinded by my own insecurities. I wanted to be admired like you were. But instead of learning from you, I tried to crush you. Celeste looked at her calmly. You didn't know we were their sisters. But would it have made a difference if we weren't? Valerie lowered her head. That's what keeps me up at night. And no, it shouldn't have taken that to make me stop. Celina stepped forward. We forgive you. But forgiveness isn't an eraser. It means you now have to make better choices moving forward. Valerie nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. I promise I will. The night of the gala, the auditorium was filled with hundreds of elegantly dressed guests. The stage was bathed in warm light. News cameras flashed as the Thompson family stood in a neat row, hands clasped, hearts proud. Ethan took the podium first. 20 years ago, our parents built this school not just with stone, but with love. Today, their vision lives in every student who walks these halls. Emmanuel followed. We were raised to believe that success means nothing without purpose. That money is best used when it builds people, not walls. Then Elijah stepped forward, drawing in a breath. But tonight, I don't want to talk about us. I want to talk about them, my sisters. A hushed awe filled the room. They've endured silence, bullying, and cruelty. They never asked for special treatment. They never used our name to silence their pain. But their strength, it changed the school. He turned and gestured to the girls. Celeste and Celina, you are this school's quiet foundation. And today we honor you. The audience rose in a standing ovation. The girls stood still, stunned. Then, hand in hand, they stepped forward. Petals and power after the applause, 2 crystal trophies were presented, etched with the words, "For grace in silence and strength in shadows." Celeste and Celina Thompson, the girls gave a short joint speech. Celina spoke first. Thank you for this. But this isn't just our award. It belongs to our friends, Naomi, Felix, Lexi, who stood beside us even when we couldn't speak. Celeste added, and to those still suffering in silence, we hope our story shows you, you are never alone. Cameras clicked. Guests wiped their eyes. Then the house lights dimmed, and a soft spotlight fell on Valerie, sitting in the front row. She slowly stood and began to clap, strong and steady. One by one, others followed. A dance under the stars later that night, under strings of fairy lights in the courtyard, music played, and students danced with their families. The atmosphere was light, joyful, almost magical. Celeste sat with Naomi, laughing over cupcakes, while Felix tried teaching Lexi how to salsa. Meanwhile, Celina stood near the rose garden with Elijah. Big brother, she said teasingly, you've been extra watchful tonight. Elijah chuckled. What can I say? My little sisters are full-grown now. That's dangerous. Celina leaned in. Thank you for speaking up when we couldn't. Elijah smiled gently. You taught me something. Sometimes the strongest people are the quietest. Then he turned serious. There's something else. Valerie's transferring to a different school next term. She says she needs a fresh start. Celina nodded. I hope she finds who she really is. The hidden garden the next day, Celeste discovered a small wooden box in her locker. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet and a folded note. You didn't just change a school, you changed me. From someone learning to be better. She smiled softly, slipped the bracelet onto her wrist, and walked into the sunlit corridor, where her sister waited, already laughing with Naomi and Lexi. Everything felt different. Not just because they were safe now, but because they had become leaders without ever asking to be. Home and beyond back at the Thompson mansion, Clara and Edward sat watching the twins through the window. Clara whispered, they're stronger than we ever imagined. Edward nodded. And we're not just leaving behind a school, we're leaving behind a legacy of kindness. Downstairs, the boys discussed expanding the school into a second branch in the city. Celeste wanted to help design a mental health club. Celina was excited to start a podcast with Lexi on student life and struggles. They were no longer the quiet girls in the background. They were the future. Full circle months later, on the last day of the school year, Celeste and Celina stood at the gates of Thompson International School, watching younger students walk out with dreams in their eyes. A first-year girl approached them shyly. Are you the Thompson twins? She asked. Celina smiled. That's us. The girl hesitated. I've been having a hard time. Kids say I talk weird. That I don't belong. Celeste bent down and whispered, you belong. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Celina added, and if they do, come find us. The girl nodded and smiled, walking away with a little more courage in her step. They stayed silent not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Celeste and Celina didn't fight with fists, but with grace. And in the end, their quiet strength shook the walls of an entire school. Sometimes, the most powerful people are the ones who never need to raise their voices. And sometimes, the ones you underestimate the most are the ones who leave the biggest legacy. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story moved you, inspired you, or even made you think a little deeper, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, every quiet soul has a story worth hearing, just like Celeste and Celina.